Rising waters trapped the family's minivan against a highway barrier until it broke, plunging the vehicle into a creek 3 stories below.
Robert Rogers, who 2 weeks ago lost his wife and all 4 of his small children in a raging flash flood across Kansas Highway.
Have you asked yourself again and again, why was I left here? Why was I spared?
I believe it was nothing short of a miracle. God is not a taker of life. God loved the world so much that he gave. I believe he chose to spare me so that I might be a beacon of hope, a banner for families, so that we might reach others through this experience and help them to cherish their children and families.
Hug and kiss them every day, every morning and every evening. Tell them over and over how much you love them. Snuggle with them at bedtime. Place your hand on their heads and bless them every day as I did.
No hug is unimportant, a very moving moment we yesterday for the father who has lost so much.
Though you pass through raging waters, in the sea you shall not drown. Know that I am with you through it all. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. Do you believe that? Like really deep down here, are you ready for anything? You trust God that much. I never ever dreamed I could get through an ordeal like this. And frankly, I can't. But God, through me, is the only way I can stand vertically before you this day. By his grace and the power of prayer. He says, I will transform the valley of trouble into a gateway of hope. If you're in a valley right now, it seems like there's no light, no way out. God can use your tribulation for your transformation. Allow him to surrender your life, particularly now during Lent. Place your heart, though it may feel vulnerable and may be extremely tender and painful, place it in his hands and trust him, even though you don't understand. And he will somehow turn it into a gateway of hope. There may not be any way to see it, but faith is not about what we see. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. What did Jesus say? Have faith in God. Don't put your faith in what you can see or what you can pull up on the internet or Facebook or whatever. Put your faith in him. And right away, God started bringing goodness, even through this horrific tragedy, even through all my tears, which still haven't stopped. I still cry and I still miss them. Of people whose faith were renewed. And would you believe, in the wreckage of our minivan, somehow they found our camera that we had used that night of the wedding reception. It was a miracle they even found our camera. Another miracle, they were able to develop that roll of film. But the biggest miracle of all is that all 4 of our children are actually looking at the camera at once and smiling. It's an amazing picture, and I have it on a blue bookmark that I'd love to give to you before you leave, just so you can see a miracle and perhaps share it with someone who needs a picture of hope. I found that your trial can either shape you or it can misshape you. It all depends on how we respond, if we allow God to transform us through that tribulation. Growth takes place in the valleys. Your faith is forged in the valley. That's where you are made and where you find out what you are made of. But God aims you in adversity. At least he tries to. Kind of like an archer with a bow and arrow. And he's pulling you back and stretching you and stretching your faith and stretching. You feel like, Lord, if you stretch one more inch, I'm going to snap. In fact, Lord, I'm supposed to be going that way. You're stretching me the wrong direction. I'm going backwards. Sometimes life can feel like that. But the further he retracts you, and the further he can release you when it's your time. It's very important to embrace that wilderness time when he's retracting you and your faith is forged and it's forming and building. Don't pass it up. Don't waste it. God says, trust me in your times of trouble. Go ahead, just trust me. And I'll do two things. I love this. Number one, he says, I will rescue you. I will. No matter how bad it is, God has a plan to rescue you. He rescued my family that night. They got to go to heaven. And boy, I wished I was with them. I felt like we were all going as I was tumbling in the water and drowning. I had no control. It was very peaceful. It's very difficult to explain, but God was there, even in the waters at night. But he rescued me in a different way. I was washed ashore. I don't know how. But so that I could be with you here in Duluth, Minnesota, this Saturday morning, 2013. I will rescue you. It may not be your way, your timing, but it'll be God's way, and it'll be good. That's number one. And number two, he says, and you will give me glory. What? What do you mean glory, God? Are you sure you wrote that correctly? I mean, what's all this glory about? Have you seen my life lately, God? How are you going to bring glory through this mess? Well, you know, out of your mess, God can bring forth a message that perhaps someone else needs to hear. Out of your story, God can bring great glory. It all just depends how we respond, if we allow him to be glorified through us. Because I truly believe that God displays his glory best through our pain, when he has our pain to step into. Because he loves to show up and save the day in his own way. And so really our pain isn't at all about us, is it? A lot of times we complain so much, it seems like it's all about me, but it's really all about him. I'd like to share just a portion of a song that I composed shortly after the flood, based on this verse of Scripture. When Jesus was crying out and saying, should I pray, Father, save me from what lies ahead? You know, this is the whole reason I came. Father, bring glory to your name. Rather than saying, how can I get out of this? In essence, Jesus was saying, what can I get out of this? It's a great challenge for each of us men, to be men of faith, to say, Lord, rather than get me out of here, how about, Lord, use me while I'm here. Use my pain for the glory of your name. How can I glorify your name, Daddy? What can I do for you? After I've asked every why, and after I've said my last goodbye, I surrender into your hands that which I don't understand. And so I will take up my cross, and that which was gain I count as loss. I'll deny my life again, for to die for you is gain. How can I glorify your name?